Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for attending today's webinar. My name is Sonia Najib, and today the whole purpose of today's training is just to be able to give you an insight on linear versus leverage income. And what do I actually mean by that is going to just fully be broken down and give you a better insight of where to actually position yourself in the future to have a better advantage of time and money together. Now, this is just a great kind of picture and icon to be able to make you understand what happens in traditional businesses where you actually go out there and you trade your time to make money in return for other people. And what they actually do is they actually only teach you the basics, and they literally beg you to actually make an income. It's like they sat on this picture right now where the individual is sat on his knees begging for the money. And that's what happens within traditional business, because the mass actually follow that kind of rat race. Now, just here is going to give you a better understanding about what I actually mean through that by the cash flow quadrant. Now, what do I mean by the cash flow quadrant? Now, that's the 4 ways that you can produce income. Now, it's actually, again, linear versus leverage, or we call it residual income. Now, 95% of the world's population actually reside under the E, which is employee, where you go out there and you have a job, which means just over broke. You have no leverage, and it's actually only 5% of the world's wealth. Now, what we actually do here is when you're employed by somebody else, the amount of active work determines just on the income. So for example, you're trading your time to make a paycheck just to clear your utility bills. Then we can go down to the self-employment. This is for people who actually own a job. They're still working for themselves, but the biggest problem is they're still working hard because they're only employed by themselves. There's no leverage, there's no working smart, there's no duplication in the process. And 95% of the population still do this. Again, it determines on the active work determines on the income that you actually make by trading your time to make money in return. Now, what does the business owner do? Now, business owners are people who actually support people through a system where they have a team or an organization working for them, where they can get paid off other people's efforts. For example, I give this example, which is John Paul Getty's. I'd rather work 1% of 100 people's efforts rather than working 100% of my own. People like McDonald's, Subway, Pizza Hut, all these franchises out there, they don't get paid off selling burgers, but they actually get paid by leveraging their time. Now, this is where you actually go out there, people work with you, and you all get paid. And I believe that this is the best place to actually be. The reason why is the company that I'm involved with taught this system where we help people through a system that we're in. And every time we support people to get involved in a system, they get paid. And that's where actually 95% of the wealth actually resides. The biggest problem is, though, only 5% of the world's population do this, because most of the 95% of the world's population are in the first equation, which is the E, being an employee for other people. The last part we have, where is the investor. Your investments can mean anything, but I look at these investments as residual income, where you can get the opportunity to get paid off services month after month, year after year, where you did the job once. Again, the biggest problem is that only 5% of the world's population reside in here, where they leverage, where their income does not depend on their activity, because something that they did 6 years ago, they're still getting paid repetitive of month after month, year after year. This is where your money actually works for you rather than chasing your money like you did in the left side of the quadrant. Now, let's just go and break this into more depth. Now, linear versus leverage income, what's the advantages and disadvantages? Now, linear income is more than 90% of the world population actually do this, where they employ professionals, They're earning 100% of their own efforts, which means it's hard work. They don't have time freedom. They're never going to become financially free. And it's very rare working 9 to 5 for someone else you ever become a millionaire, which means you'll never be free. That's working hard, stressing yourself and killing yourself, and going through this burden in your life and carrying baggages. And that's where most of the people do. Whereas leverage income is where you're a businessman or a businesswoman, where you do investments, create assets, build yourself a portfolio of residual income so that tomorrow, even if you're not here, you can still get paid off the efforts that you did in the previous years. Earn 100% of other people's efforts and have that freedom to be able to work smart wherever you are up and down the countries. Now, again, let me give you an example about this. And this is so important because most people don't actually know this. Now, when do you think that 9 to 5 actually started? For those of you who don't know, if you look at the slide, Ford Motor Company back in Detroit actually began this, where what they actually did was they were getting average people, the mass, to be able to go out there and trade their time to make money for their company. The reason why they were one of the largest, the richest motor companies within the history at that time. And what happened was people like myself and you who were average or below average didn't have much of an income and were only worried about paying their bills and making ends meet. They were willing to do this. Now, what did Ford Motor Company actually do? They stated to people that if you actually get involved with Ford Motor Company and start off and work with us, we can guarantee you a job for the rest until you for your whole life of 9 to 5 or working for the next 30 to 40 years. And the guarantee that we have is a pension plan. Now, people were happy because their bills would be paid. They'd have an income coming in regularly, and not forgetting that they'd have a pension plan, which they don't even know that they're actually going to meet, because they don't know by 65 if they're alive or not. So what is the point of waiting for a pension plan that you know that you might not even reach? But because Ford Motor Company was so much more powerful and they were in the 5% wealth, which was more of the business and investors investing in people and investing in money, people sacrificed and actually did this. What they didn't realize was the masses actually were employed for their skills and qualities that they had to make Ford Motor Company what they was today. So the mass, the employment, those employees made Ford Motor Company so rich. And what people don't realize in this day and age is that the skills and the qualities that you have shouldn't be given to people to be able to make them richer, but you can have the advantage of getting involved and start small upfront businesses to be able to give you that opportunity. But most people don't realize that is because they think that 9 to 5 started when they were born and that's the only right way. The reason why is because so much of the mass are doing this on a daily basis, where they're waking up to an alarm clock, sitting in the traffic and going to work and doing this repetitive for the rest of their life. Now, that's why people actually do that. But if you don't know what you don't know, you don't actually know until you go out there and know. Now, one thing that I realize is by being an entrepreneur, starting an online business at a low upfront cost, the advantages that you have is that there's no inventory, there's no overhead expenses, you don't have to employ anybody, you can start it from home. And the best advantage is that they're essential services which people need every single day. Now, another thing that I realize is most people that work 9 to 5, they only focus on a pension plan. Now, what do we mean by a pension plan? Now, let's say, for example, £148 a week a person makes as a pension. Now, will this clear your bills every single month for your shopping and everything when you're 65? Is it going to clear anything? Most people actually go to education, they study, they get a degree. They're in debt by £40,000, but they're not guaranteed a job, but they still do it because they think it's the right way. And these are all big problems what people are facing right now. And then we worry about not having the advantage of being financially free, not having enough choices in life, not having opportunities, because the problem is we're so worried about what's not going to happen. We don't realize what can happen and how taking that risk can be something that can benefit you in the future. So one thing you need to understand is that why would you even start a business? It's about creating a community, a sense of ownership for yourself, being so creative, and having a fulfilled and meaningful life. Now, you may have the characteristics of an entrepreneur if you realize and you identify a few points of being a risk taker, being able to have opportunities like this where you can go out there and be a go-getter. You can face challenges. You don't allow your emotions to get in the way, and so on. Now, if you're interested in a 5-year game plan where you can become financially free and get paid month after month, year after year of things that you did in the previous 5 years, let's get in touch over Facebook. If you saw this video over YouTube or anywhere, let's connect and let's make things a benefit to you in your life where you can have and spend with those who are most important to you, such as your loved ones. Thank you so much for listening. I hope this was a benefit to you guys, and I look forward to hearing you from the future. Thank you so much. Stay blessed. Goodbye.